Hey everybody, it's Julie. Welcome to Hello Monday. Today I am celebrating cherry blossom season because the cherry or blossom trees that line my driveway, they're all blooming. It's so gorgeous and it reminds me of my trip to Japan and how I was so inspired when I came back to illustrate this darling set called So Matcha that features this trio of girls in their kimonos, and this is one of my favorite sets of all time. So I wanted to point out why my stamps look so hideous. And somewhere, I don't know where I overheard it, but somebody said to ink up your clear stamps with some archival ink and let them sit and soak in it like overnight with that on the surface. And then it'll result in better visibility or something to that effect. Anyway, I can't remember why I took that advice, but I'm telling you, I regret it. I will never, ever do that again to my clear stamps. Poor babies. I love you. Mama loves you. But anyway, I'm just giving you a heads up. I wouldn't do it ever again. So you do whatever floats your boat. Now I'm inking up using VersaFine Clair in Nocturne. This is a pigment ink, and I'm stamping on a very rough textured Canson watercolor paper. I forgot to flip it over and stamp on the smoother side. So it took a couple of impressions to get enough coverage of ink on the paper surface that I could sprinkle that clear detail embossing powder over the top and heat emboss it. Now, I really like it when I'm stamping. If I'm going to black emboss an image, instead of using a black embossing powder, I really like to use a clear detail powder over the top of black pigment ink. I just get a really nice, crisp image, and I don't have to worry about miscellaneous grains of black embossing powder ending up somewhere else on the surface of my paper, and they don't get cleaned up then they get fused to the paper. It's kind of a pain, so that's why I do it that way. Now I'm going to grab some Catherine Pooler water-based dye inks, and I have and use and love many forms of watercolor, but if you're ever in a pinch, this is a really great way to get a watercolor effect. So just make sure they're water-based dye inks. They're not permanent inks. If they're permanent inks, they're going to bond into the paper so quickly, you're not going to get that watercolor effect. So you just want to make sure they're not permanent. Anyway, I loaded up some colors that made up my color palette here, and I'm just diluting the color down and applying that with my water brush. I like to press my water-based dye ink pads against the Waffle Flower Mini Media Mat. This thing is so handy. It's portable, easy to travel with. I love it. I use it for so many different things besides watercolor work. But anyway, I just wanted to show you my girls and how cute they look. Make sure you have paper towel handy so you can blot up if you got excess color or you got excess water on there. You can use a clean paper towel to blot that up and just keep going. So for the background, I wanted to create the sensation of these cherry blossoms just flurrying down in the wind like they are on my driveway. And so I took the little tiny blossom image and inked up with Samba. And then I did like second and third impressions without re-inking so I could get that really cool faded effect, which adds more texture and depth to the image. And then I'm going to use the rectangle dies. These are the Essentials rectangle dies to create a frame out of that quarter sheet of Nina Solar White. So my base card is Nina, and then this frame is going to be Nina. And I also took the foam tape and ran the strips all around the edges to raise that frame because I wanted to create a little bit more dimension and the illusion of a picture frame. And then I decided I needed a few more cherry blossoms just because of, as I was testing things out as far as layout goes, I was looking at where I wanted to position those girls and whether or not I had created a backdrop that was going to flutter down with those cherry blossoms as much as I wanted. So after I die cut these girls, I did trim out a little bit more by hand around the girl's neck there on the left because I wanted to tuck the umbrella there behind her head. And to have the right angle that I wanted, I needed to have just a little bit more leeway there. So I took my scissors and went in there and just trimmed out just a little bit more there around her neck and shoulder area so I could create that effect and layer the two together. So I think it turned out so cute. So I'm going to mount her with just, what do you call it, tape runner. And I put some foam adhesive dots. I love those the thin 3D foam squares by Scrapbook Adhesives. I just go through tons of those things. I love them. And then I took a little bit more mounting tape and added that to the back of my sentiment. I ended up white embossing my sentiment onto black cardstock because I felt that it gave it a lot more presence than stamping it directly. And now I'm just going to add some pretty diamond stickles to give a little glittery sparkle effect and create the illusion of those cherry blossoms floating in front of the girls. And this turned out so cute. I hope you're enjoying cherry blossom season. Thanks for watching.